Hello, welcome to the F1Stop show. I'm your host, Samuel Oni, and with me virtually is Wes Spearman. Wes, how are you this evening?
I'm okay. I've been better. In case you can't tell by my voice, I'm not fully fit. I do have the dreaded COVID. Been after 2 years, and it's finally hit me. I hear you're in a similar situation.
Well, yes, yeah, the whole family, besides me, tested positive for COVID, and wasn't very nice. So yeah, but I'm okay. We're all isolating, so it's all right. Yeah. So I have good news. F1 is back this week.
Race week.
Formula One is back. Formula One is back this week, heading to Bahrain for the season opener. Let me get your thoughts. How excited are you about this?
Yeah, quite excited. I mean, it's the first chance we get to have a proper look at sort of the cars and how sort of competitive they are in terms of sort of race pace and quali pace against each other rather than testing. I mean, you get some sort of inkling as to how the teams have done in testing, but everyone's using different fuel loads, different tires, etc., different setups. So you can't really look too much into it, I think. But yeah, once the cars get out in Bahrain on Thursday or Friday, I can't remember now. Friday for practice. And yeah, we get a chance to sort of properly compare how the cars doing, how the teams have developed their cars, and yeah, first well when this goes out, it'll be first qualifying session on Saturday, so with a race on Sunday as well. So yeah, really looking forward to it. What about you?
Yeah, I'm very excited for the season. I just cannot wait to see the grid again. You know, the drivers and the teams. And speaking of drivers, speaking of the grid, we've had we've had the we've had the car launches, we've had the teams, but we've also got one or two, well, two new names. Well, one technically, but yeah, we've got some new names in Formula One. Um, Guan Yu Zhou racing with Alfa Romeo. His partner is Valtteri Bottas. What do you make of Guan Yu Zhou? He was in Formula Two previously. He won a few races. I believe last year he won the Monaco Grand Prix as well in F2. So yeah, what do you make of it? Big step up.
Yeah, it will be. He's still relatively young, 22 years old. I mean, I'd say relatively young. That's still a year older than me. But yeah, his first season in F1, the first Chinese driver in Formula One. So he's got a bit of pressure going into it. I would think being the first driver from your country to compete in a sport is quite an achievement. But he's got a good teammate in Valtteri Bottas, I think, because obviously Bottas has spent 5 years at Mercedes, I think 3 or 4 years at Williams before that. So he's got an experienced teammate, a teammate who knows how to win races, and who can help him just develop, ease him sort of into Formula One, ease him into the car, etc., etc. So yeah, I'm looking forward to how he goes. I've heard a lot of, oh, he's another pay driver, but he does have some pedigree, as you say. He's got a few race wins in lower formulas. I would have liked to have seen someone like Callum Ilott in that seat, but it's not. Guan Yu Zhou's there now, so yeah, we just have to see how he goes. Hopefully, he's not another Mazepin, another Stroll, Maldonado, that that sort of driver. But yeah, I think Bottas will give him his full support, and obviously the team gives him their full support. So yeah, interested to see how he goes.
And another name that Formula One is very familiar with is Kevin Magnussen. He he has returned to F1 with the Haas team, replacing permanently Nikita Mazepin. Well, I don't want to say what you make of it, but
Brilliant news.
what are your thoughts? What are
Great
your
news.
thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, great to see him back. I don't know how many people would have expected that, to be honest, because I think a few people would have expected Mazepin to go, and obviously the Uralkali contract and Mazepin's contract to be torn up, which is rightly so. That was Haas were right to do that. Yeah, they would lose a lot of money because of that, but morals are more than money in this situation. So, but yeah, I mean, Magnussen is, I don't know what racing series he was in before this. Obviously, Grosjean's gone off to IndyCar and I think is doing all right over there. Whether we'd have seen someone like Hulkenberg come back for like, a third different team since he was, I say, retired or left the grid in a few years ago now, 2018, I think, with Force India Racing Point. Yeah, good to see Magnussen back. He did well for Haas for what, 3-4 years, long time
Yeah,
for Haas when they came into F1 in 2016. So yeah, it's just great to see him back. I mean, he's got Mick Schumacher alongside him, so it'll be an interesting sort of test to see how Schumacher does compared to a more experienced driver. But then, so Schumacher's got a bit more experience in this year's car than Magnussen because he's had essentially 2 test sessions compared to 1. But Magnussen, he seemed to dust off the cobwebs quite well. He went quickest in one of the testing sessions,
I
and
was
yeah,
very surprised by that.
that might be
Yeah,
because Haas had some sort of logistical issues getting to the test in Bahrain. He had some delayed freight or whatever. So the F1 allowed Haas to sort of run on afterwards after all the other teams have finished, like an extra hour or 2 afterwards, which I think is fair enough. Allows them to catch up on essentially a day of no running. So fair play to F1 for doing that. And yeah, Magnussen went quickest in one session. I think Schumacher went second fastest in another session. And yeah, they got clean air. Yeah, the track is cooler. So I don't know if that'll have an effect now, come to think of it. But yeah, it's just great to see Kevin Magnussen back in F1. And I mean, whether he'll stay for more than a year, I don't know. But it's just good to see him back on the grid.
yeah, indeed. And it's just really good to see that racing's back again. You know, new season, new cars, new era. 2021 was quite very dramatic, but that's gone now. That's gone. A new champion was crowned. He has to defend it again. And yeah. So, Bahrain Grand Prix. This time last year, it was Hamilton who came out on top with track limits, well, being his best friend, should I
Was it
say.
29 times, was it? At turn
29
4
times he went off track.
out of 50
Yeah.
odd laps. I still don't
Yeah,
get
I
that.
mean,
I still don't get a year on, I still don't get it. How he wasn't penalised even once for yeah. Was it over half the race? Just under half? Can't quite remember now.
yeah.
Yeah, I just hope that
Oh,
doesn't
and
happen again.
yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen again. And yeah, Hamilton won the race. Verstappen came in second after actually giving the position back, and then Valtteri Bottas was third place on the podium. So let's get into the predictions then. How do you predict this Grand Prix going?
I suppose in a way similar to last year because it was quite a decent start to last. I mean, we had the sort of strategic battle between Verstappen and Hamilton. I can't remember if one did a 1-stop, one did a 2-stop, but you had Verstappen just catching Hamilton towards the end, and yeah, obviously he did have to give the place back in the end, but it was just a bit of tension to kick the season off, and he had Sonoda in the points in his first race. I think he had a bit of a battle with Alonso, I think, or am I thinking of Qatar or something? Can't remember now. Yeah, I can't remember your question. I forgot. What was your question?
So the question was, how do you see this
Oh, how
race
do I see this year? Yeah,
panning
forget about
out?
last year.
Yeah,
I mean, as I say, similar to last year. I think it's got to be a Mercedes or Red Bull on the front row. I think I'm backing Verstappen to get pole position as he did last year. I know Mercedes have been slow in testing, but they're always slow in testing the last few years. I saw a graphic. I think it was Autosport put out something on Twitter earlier, and I think it was the race winner of the opening or the Bahrain Grand Prix that year. Then didn't go on to win the championship. So like 17 and 18, it was Vettel. In 19, 20, 21, it was one of the Red Bulls, I think. And then obviously last year it was Hamilton and he didn't go on to win the championship. So But it'll be interesting to see if that pans out again this year. But yeah, I'm backing Verstappen to get pole position. Where I'm going again, same as last year, Hamilton to actually win the race. I think, yeah, Mercedes have been slow in testing, but I think most of us know that there's a bit of sandbagging going on there. They're just sort of just we're slow in testing. We're not going to win races when actually come this weekend they'll be flying out the blocks quicker than anyone. Um, yeah, driver of the day. I think we only got one right last year in our predictions. I can't remember. I think
That
I got it right. I can't remember who was driver of the day and what race it was, but I know I got one right last year. And this time round, I'm going Kevin Magnussen back in
Kevin Magnussen.
F1. I just thought, yeah, why not? He might get the popular vote that will give him Magnussen.
Well, that's some good predictions. Driver of the day is always a hard one. I mean, it was evident last season that I struggled with driver of the day. I didn't get a single one correct out of 20 plus races. But my pole sitter, actually, I'm giving it to Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. I think testing, they were actually great in testing, Ferrari. Leclerc and Sainz, they were great.
Yeah, they
And
were.
I really think that the Scuderia can really push Mercedes and Red Bull this season, get a couple of wins, maybe 3 or 4 podiums. And I really think that Leclerc can, set the tone for the race, get in pole position, starting on the front row. It's been a long time since we've seen Ferrari start on the front row. I think 2019 with Sebastian Vettel.
Must have been, yeah. I don't remember them
Yeah.
getting. They didn't get one last year. I don't think.
No.
Famous last words. I don't remember them getting one in 2020 either. I know Leclerc won the Austrian Grand Prix the opening round in 2020, but I don't know if he got pole position. I don't think so. Yeah, it must have been 2019 with either Leclerc or Vettel.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, yeah, Charles Leclerc for pole sitter in Bahrain, and then race winner will be the defending champion himself, Max Verstappen. I think he's gonna have a great race. He's gonna really, he's gonna set the tone for the Grand Prix. You always want as a defending champion, you want to stake your claim. And if your rival is in the opposite in the Mercedes, you want to tell him, you know what, Lewis, I'm gonna defend my title this season. So Max Verstappen to win the race. And then driver of the day, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna pick Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. Um, I think he's a sensible racer. You know, um, on the back of last year, he won a race in Hungary, which was absolutely stunning. So yeah, Esteban Ocon for driver of the day. Hopefully my points. Hopefully I get points this
Yeah, hopefully,
weekend.
hopefully we get a few more points than last year. I think it was all fairly low scoring last year.
Yeah. So another thing we want to move on to actually is testing as well, but in particular, Mercedes in the Mercedes camp about testing, because on Twitter Lewis Hamilton, he was speaking in a press conference about testing and Mercedes, and I think some of us have heard it maybe last year as well. He's always said that we're not we won't be able to compete for wins this season. We're having problems in the car. The car's not going as planned. Is it? Are they? The question is, are they holding back? What are they holding back? Are you trying to just shrug it off, or what's going on?
Well, he does this every year, really. I think by Hamilton and Mercedes, either they deliberately sandbag in testing and then just remove all the sandbags figuratively, and then just go out the blocks in the races as fast as. I mean, we've seen what, 8 years now, Mercedes have been constructors champions, and 7 out of those 8 years they've been world drivers champions as well, with Hamilton and Rosberg. Yeah, whether Mercedes are deliberately sandbagging every year, I mean, it is literally every year for the last, what, 8, 9 years now, or whether they have had legitimate struggles in testing, and then somehow by literally the week after they've rectified all their problems, they're now quickest by quite some margin. I mean, I think it was Carlos Sainz who said that Mercedes is typical Mercedes, typical Hamilton, typical George Russell, saying, "Oh, they're slowest in testing. Oh, we won't be challenging for wins yet. Come Sunday, they'll absolutely knock it out the park." So yeah, it's happened every year for the last, what, 8, 9 years. So I wouldn't be expecting anything different really from Mercedes to come out and, well, almost well, I won't say almost certainly, definitely challenging for race wins week in, week out.
It almost takes us back to the WTF1 predictions thing, where where
Yeah.
they put out a tweet saying, "What do you predict? 80% of the thing will happen, 50%, and then 10%." So don't be surprised if Mercedes get what two or three race wins, because you know you've got Lewis Hamilton in one seat, George Russell, upcoming driver, quality driver. That's a lot of points, a lot of race wins that are going into the Silver Arrows camp.
Yeah, I mean, going back to my 80% prediction should have been Mercedes will sandbag in testing, and Hamilton will say, "Oh, we won't be we won't be challenging for race wins," because I think that would have, well, has been proved correct pretty much. But yeah, they've got an incredible driver pairing in Russell and Hamilton, and yeah, I don't see any reason why they won't be challenging for for race wins week in, week out. I think they're two of the best, fastest drivers on the grid. Although we haven't seen it quite yet, probably one of the fastest cars on the grid, or if not the fastest car on the grid, even though the times haven't reflected that in testing. But as I said, they do that every year. So yeah, I'm thoroughly looking forward to seeing Russell win a Mercedes. I think it's for me, Mercedes now is becoming more of a British team, even though Mercedes is almost as German a brand as you can get. They're based in Brackley in Northamptonshire. They've got two British drivers. Um, and you will almost always hear the British anthem when one of them's on the top step. We will this year being two British drivers. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what Mercedes have to offer, and if Russell can challenge Hamilton, sort of go full on head to head, not like, oh, Russell, we just brought you in to be a wingman like Bottas. If Russell can challenge Hamilton, then great. I mean, Mercedes won't want that because they don't want another Rosberg Hamilton situation like Barcelona 2016. Yeah, hopefully George can come into his own this year and win some races. Deserved win some
Yeah,
races after, was it Sakir 2020? He was cruelly robbed of that race win, but almost maiden points as well that race. Yeah.
indeed. And so sticking with Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton in particular, we heard over the last couple of days or so, last few days, that he's in the process of actually changing his name. So it won't just be Lewis Hamilton. So he'll be adding his mother's name. So it will be Lewis Labastiere Hamilton. And so he wants to continue his Hamilton name, but he has that strong relationship with his mother, and a mother-son relationship is always beautiful. It's always important as well. So he wants to continue that bond, and I don't think we've ever seen anything like this in Formula One before.
Certainly not in Formula One, no, and probably not in a lot of walks of life. But I've heard somewhere that in like Spanish-speaking countries, Portuguese-speaking countries, it's quite common to include your mother's maiden name, surname, whatever, into your own name. I think both Alonso and Sainz have sort of similar names where they have their mother's maiden name in sort of included in their name. I know Spanish names, like if you look at Pablo Picasso's full name, it's about it's got about 20 names in there, I think, if you look it up. Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, fair play to him. I think he said that he doesn't understand why, when a man and a woman get married, it's the woman who has to drop the name and take the man's name. And
Mm.
fair play to him, respect him for that. Me personally, I've got no issues with it whatsoever. It's his name, it's his mother, his father. They do what he wants with it, but I don't really mind. People lauding him for it, and yeah, fair play. I've got no issues with it whatsoever. I don't see why people would have an issue with it, to be honest. But yeah, all for it. Let's go.
It
I
should
don't
it
really know
should be
what else to
great.
say, to be honest.
Yeah. A few things actually. I want to actually ask a, a few questions, but before I do, there was just some information that we heard over, I think, a few weeks ago that Imola, the Italian Grand Prix, they've actually extended their contract with Formula One until, I believe, 2025, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I think you're right there. Yeah, 2025.
So what do you make of it? The Emilia Romagna Grand Prix in Imola? It's great. It's a great track. It's not what, do you like the track? What do you make of it?
I love the track. Love Imola. I think it's one of the fastest tracks on the calendar, and I think if I could drive any track in the world, Imola would be probably one of the top five. I mean, out there were like Silverstone, Spa, maybe Monza, Zandvoort, maybe Interlagos, but yeah, Imola would be up there for sure. And I just love how fast it is. It's one of the more historic tracks on the calendar, as opposed to in somewhere like Turkey or God forbid Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, etc., etc. Um, yeah, although the racing there hasn't been, we've had a couple decent races. I think last year was a pretty good race in Imola, with a bit of rain around. Yeah, overall, really like Imola as a track. I think it's great for the drivers, and it's been sort of not necessarily a mainstay on the F1 calendar in previous years as the San Marino Grand Prix. I think it was the European Grand Prix before that or something, or just a standalone Italian Grand Prix. I don't know, but yeah, happy to see it remain on the calendar, and yeah, hopefully it stays on there for a bit longer. And I feel like it's on there for the right reasons as well, for just being a good track that all the drivers want to go to, rather than Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, etc., where it's just for the money, really. So
Yeah,
yeah, happy to
yeah,
see
agreed.
Imola stay on the calendar. One of my favourite tracks.
Now, just lastly, before we finish off, new season, as I've mentioned, and new, well, not new names, just one new name. If you were to pick out two breakout stars for this season, I'm saying breakout in particular because we all know that most of the grid, they're probably big names. But if you had to pick out two breakout stars for this season that we have to keep an eye out for, who would they be and why?
Um, that's tricky because I feel like a lot of the F1 grid has already had a sort of breakout year. Um, I mean, Norris has got a few podiums now, so Ricardo's got race wins before with Red Bull and whatever. Got a race win last year with McLaren. Um, Even Stroll's got a podium or two in there as well. Um, yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to say Mick Schumacher,
Mhm.
because I mean, last year's Haas car was a complete dog. It was utter rubbish. So hopefully, with a better car this year, and certainly from testing, and from what I've heard of sort of through the grapevine sort of thing, is that Haas have improved quite a lot. So hopefully, Schumacher will be able to sort of actually show off what he can do now in a decent
Yeah,
car against a good standard of teammate as well. So I think he'll be one to definitely keep an eye on and hopefully have a breakout year. Yuki Sonoda, another one. I think
mm,
he said he was struggling at the back end of last year. Sort of didn't know
he was.
why
Yeah,
why AlphaTauri kept him in his seat, but he's got the backing of the team, so certainly for this year, and hopefully he can go on to show his team, show, I wouldn't say everyone, but show some people why he deserves to be in F1. Hopefully he can consistent one, not so necessarily perform as consistent as Pierre Gasly, but just consistently score points. Really, not to the not to the level that Gasly was last year, scoring like fourth places, fifth places, some absolutely ridiculous points in an AlphaTauri. But yeah, some consistent performances, just cheeky eighth places, seventh places, stuff like that for Sonoda. I think will do him really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, who have you got in mind?
I've actually gone for Yuki Sonoda as well. I think just at the back of his rookie year in 2021, I just thought he will look back at it and feel where he needs to work on. I look at Yuki Sonoda and I feel that he's a dark horse, a surprise package. Media stuff aside, just racing, I just hope that he can, just cause a bit of trouble among, like, on the grid, like surprise us, maybe a sneaky top 10 finish in a race. I mean, we all saw what he did in Bahrain in his opening season, getting that 9th place in Bahrain. So it'll be great to see him, just achieve more and just like demonstrate to his team why he's with AlphaTauri. And then another name who I think should be looking out for is actually, well, I was gonna say Alex Albon in the Williams.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
I thought, yeah, Alex Albon in the Williams. Okay, Williams are not they're not gonna win races. They're not gonna go and win the world championship. I mean, what if? What if that was the case? But I just think just seeing Alex Albon at Grand Prix races, just putting in great performances, maybe doing something like a Russell, maybe, in qualifying, getting into Q2, maybe getting into Q3, just putting on performances for the Williams team and helping out his teammate, Nicholas Latifi. So I think those are the two drivers that I thought, yeah, those two drivers, they can really pull something out the bag this season, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'd agree with you there. I think it's tricky because a lot of the drivers on the grid are already sort of at least semi-experienced. They've had a few years behind them, but yeah, I mean, Albon's, I think it's his third full season of F1. And I think he had it quite tricky at first because Gasly wasn't doing well in the Red Bull, so Albon, after like half a season in a Toro Rosso, had to go up to Red Bull, and yeah, he got the short end of the straw, I think there. But yeah, good to see him back with Williams this year. And yeah, as you say, if he can do sort of similar to Russell, don't expect him to do the same as Russell, like just get second in qualifying out of nowhere, sort of thing. But yeah, so if he can get the car into Q3, I think that would be a huge achievement. And if he get points, an even bigger achievement as well.
Indeed. So we believe we've come to the end of the episode, but do remember to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, on the F1Stop Show Pod on Instagram and also Twitter as well. You can look at our social pages. We've got videos so far and also pictures as well. We want to interact with you, send in your comments. What do you think? Right, so here's a question for you. What are you most looking forward to the race? And if you had to ask a driver one question, what would it be? So that's the question for all of you guys. If you had to ask a driver one question, what would it be? So yeah, I've been your host, Samuel Oni. We hope you enjoyed the episode. And it's a goodbye from me. Bye-bye. And it's a goodbye from Wes.
Bye-bye.
And don't forget, this is the Bahrain Grand Prix. See you soon.